Yes, hello and good afternoon. Welcome to Senior Counsel. I'm Stephen Stern, partner in the law firm of David Dow, Siegel & Stern, Long Island's elder law, estate planning and special needs firm. And I'm pleased to be with you today and to welcome our guest, Oded Ben-Ami. Oded is counsel at David Dow, Siegel & Stern with a concentration in real estate law. And Oded, it's great to have you with us today. Welcome.
Thank you, Steve. I'm really pleased to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And for those who, because they're driving, they're listening, they're tuning in on the internet all over Long Island, all over our region, maybe for starters, we could talk about your name,
Sure.
Oded Ben-Ami.
I always want to get that out of the way before anything else. So Oded Ben-Ami, you might wonder what kind of name is that? He sounds normal, and if you could see me out there in radio land, you'd agree that I probably look normal, but I've got this weird name. It's a Hebrew name. I was born in Israel. I've been here since 1958.
Oh. And you look real good.
I look real good. Thank you.
Well, welcome. It's great to have you. And you are counsel at David Dow, Siegel & Stern with a particular concentration in real estate law.
Exactly. Residential real estate, to be precise. The commercial world is a whole other world. My concentration is in residential.
Sure. And so you're working with individuals, with single individuals, with married people, with families, and guiding them through the real estate, either the purchasing or the selling process.
Exactly. Individuals, families, you got it, either the purchase or the sale. Yes.
Okay. And so these days, plenty of challenges across all sectors, but particularly across the real estate sector. A lot of families are looking to make changes in their lives, whether it is something that they are doing in a positive way, purchasing real estate. Some are selling because it's that at a particular time in their lives. They're looking to make a transition. But what are some of the big overall issues that you're seeing, that you're guiding clients through when they're going through the real estate process today? Sure.
The most difficult issue, I think, that both buyers and sellers need to confront is value. That is, what is the property worth? And it's hard on both ends. Certainly for the seller, especially the seller who's owned his property or her property, or the family that's owned their property for 5, 10, 15, 20 years and has accumulated a good amount of equity and has regarded the property as their nest egg, has regarded their property as something of value to themselves personally and to their family and to the next generation. Everybody, of course, wants to get the maximum value. And the way that human beings work is they generally see what they want to see, hear what they want to hear, believe what they want to believe. And how that translates in the real estate world is that the majority of people overvalue their property, which is why when I'm representing a seller, no matter how far along the seller is in the process, whether the seller is just starting out to market his property or has been marketing the property for months or even longer, I recommend to everybody to get an appraisal. That is, to hire a licensed appraiser and get a complete written appraisal, which typically cost $300 or $400, which will have the benefit of giving the seller a grounding, a real solid grounding in the market value of the property.
And generally, when someone hires an appraiser to do a real formal evaluation, what kind of information is contained in the appraisal?
It's really interesting that people seem to think that the only piece of information that is contained in the appraisal is a number, like what is the property worth? And of course, that's the critical piece of information, and that's the bottom line. It's literally on the bottom of the particular page as the bottom line. But the appraisal actually contains a wealth of information, first of all, about the property that the seller is selling, including the lot size and the square footage of livable space and how many rooms are counted as a legal room, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, half bathrooms, and the condition, the condition of the property as it relates to the other properties in the neighborhood. And equally importantly, it gives information about other recent sales, not only the price that the property was sold at, but the exact date on which it was sold, but also the comparable information about those other factors, the lot size and the livable space and the number of rooms and the condition and whether it has a garage or not a garage or a 2-car garage or 3-car garage, whether it has a view, whether it doesn't have a view, so that the seller who's selling can get a real perspective on the market in which he is selling. And I recommend that to everybody. Now, the funny thing is that even though I recommend it to almost every client, most of them don't do it. They don't spend the $300 or the $400 right. that it would take to get that wealth of information.
And what's the biggest reluctance behind that? What's the reasoning?
Well,
because it's good advice.
I think it's good advice. And I've never really gotten to the bottom of how come people are reluctant to take that advice. But I think it's that they don't want to be firmly grounded in the reality. They'd rather stick with what they think. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think they don't want to disrespect their real estate broker mm-hmm. because the real estate broker has given them a value and they want to continue the trust and the relationship with the real estate broker. And if it would seem like if they're consulting somebody else other than the real estate broker, that might be deemed as a disrespectful maneuver. But in my opinion, it shouldn't be a stop.
You're listening to Senior Counsel here on LI News Radio, and our guest is Oded Ben-Ami, counsel at David Dow, Siegel & Stern, an attorney concentrating in real estate law, particularly working with individuals. Oded, if our listeners have questions about real estate sales, they can contact you how?
Oh, at the office at 631-234-3030. I'd be glad to discuss.
Very good. 631-234-3030. Or they can find out more information on the web at www.daviddowlaw. That's www.daviddowlaw. David Dow, Siegel & Stern, where the best advice leads to lasting solutions. And so you'll guide, Oded, clients through not just the sale or the purchase process, but will also help them through and answer questions regarding financing and particularly the mortgage process.
Yeah, I do have a lot of experience in financing, and financing is a whole other topic. It's the other than the value of the property, whether you're a buyer or a seller, the most important element these days in a real estate transaction is the financing. So if you're the buyer, getting a mortgage loan is a big deal, a bigger deal now than I think it has ever been. And if you're a seller, then the issue is whether you're going to accept a buyer who is only buying with financing, or whether you're going to insist on taking a buyer who only the kind of buyer who has the capacity to give you 100% of the purchase price in cash, what's known as a cash deal. So that's a big decision that the seller has to make first. And then if the seller agrees to take a buyer who is going for financing, then it's important, actually essential, for the seller to get the buyer vetted. That is to see whether the buyer really is qualified. Now, normally, a good real estate broker will do that kind of screening in advance, will not even let the purchaser come near the buyer, or I'm exaggerating, but will not let an offer be accepted unless the real estate broker has done a thorough job of determining whether the buyer is a viable candidate for financing. However, that's not so easily done. It's much easier said than done. Mm-hmm. What the real estate broker will typically do is require a request from the buyer, a letter from some lender, some mortgage lender, some bank, that says that the buyer is pre-qualified or pre-approved for financing. But that's only the beginning, in my opinion. It's fairly easy to get such a letter, but it doesn't mean that the likelihood of approval in the end of getting a mortgage loan commitment is very, very high, because the likelihood of getting a mortgage loan commitment is not high for anybody these days. It's a minefield.
Yeah.
And perhaps in the second half of this conversation, we can go into some more detail about that.
I'm sure a lot of challenges both on the part of the families or the individuals who are making the purchase and doing the selling, and of course on the financing side as well.
Yes.
So we're looking forward to continuing our conversation with Oded Ben-Ami, counsel at David Dow, Siegel and Stern. Oded concentrates in real estate law and financing, particularly when it comes to residential. Oded, again, if our listeners have questions, they can contact you how?
631-234-3030.
Very good. More with Oded Ben-Ami on Senior Counsel when we return here on LI News Radio. Back in a bit. Yes, and we're back here on LI News Radio. You are listening to Senior Counsel. I'm Stephen Stern, partner in the law firm of David Dow, Siegel and Stern, Long Island's elder law, special needs, and estate planning firm. We have offices in Islandia, Garden City, and Mattituck. If you have questions regarding elder law, estate planning, questions regarding important issues that go along with representing families who have children or grandchildren that have special needs, give us a call at 631-234-3030. That's 631-234-3030, or you can get us on the web at www.daviddowlaw.com. That's www.daviddowlaw.com. And we're continuing our conversation with our special guest today, Oded Ben-Ami, who is counsel at David Dow, Siegel and Stern. Oded is an attorney concentrating in residential real estate law, assisting families with financing issues. And Oded, continuing what we were discussing in the first half, having an appreciation for both what's going on the buying side and on the selling side, and some of the emotion that goes into it on both sides, and some of the real factors that are at play on both sides, of course, is something that you have a particular concentration in. And these days, given so many challenges across so many sectors, particularly when it comes to financing, what are some of the big issues that you're seeing? And specifically, in your experience, what does it take to be able to get the financing necessary to these kinds of deals?
Yep. Thank you. Well, the first thing that it takes is a healthy dose of realism. And the first spoonful of realism is in the area of how much time it takes. These days, there's no such thing as a quick loan approval and a quick closing. In the past, perhaps people have memories of and direct experience of going to beginning a loan application and then getting an approval in as little as a few days or a week or two, and then if there are any conditions on the loan commitment, dealing with them in a matter of days as well, and closing in 20, 30, 40, 45 days. That was practical and realistic back in the day, but not anymore. These days, there's no such thing as a quick financing. I draft my contracts and prepare my clients, whether I'm representing a seller or a buyer, that if there's financing involved, it's going to take a minimum of 60 days. And it often stretches out to 75, 90, and sometimes even longer. And it isn't even necessarily a reflection of the sincerity or the honesty or the qualifications of the person who's applying for financing. It's rather a function of the climate of mortgage financing these days, which is horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And everybody is, there's a loaded word I'm about to use, is a victim of it. Not so much a perpetrator of it. The banks have no choice but to scrutinize the applicants at a level that I sometimes joke approaches the Spanish Inquisition. It's almost torture. So that even the most qualified buyers who have high income, a good amount of savings, and clean credit reports have to go through a vetting process, a scrutiny that is deep, deep, deep. And the funny thing is that or how it appears is that every time that a mortgage client applicant submits another piece of paper to verify or validate either their income or their credit or their assets or their prior employment or their prior living arrangements, whatever it is that they submit triggers another question.
Sure. And always 5 follow-ups.
5 follow-ups. And then they provide the documentary evidence to answer whatever question was asked the last time. And then that triggers another question.
Sure.
Including such unexpected things, at least for someone who's never gone through the process of you submit a bank statement to show that you have $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in savings. You're certainly qualified. And then what's there is a deposit for $5,300.42. And the lender wants to know what's the source of that deposit.
Where'd it come from?
Where'd it come from? Because from the lender's point of view, any unexplained large deposit is potentially, this is like you're guilty until you're proven innocent rather than innocent until you're proven guilty, is potentially money that you borrowed, if you're a loan applicant, that you're using for the purposes of this purchase that you didn't reveal on your loan application as a loan. And if you didn't reveal it as a loan, then you've misled or misrepresented on your loan application. You're really not the person you say you are. And 99.9% of the time, of course, it's an innocent and explainable deposit, and it's not a loan at all. But that's the kind of it's kind of a trap that people fall into without having done anything wrong. And the banks have no choice but to vet this kind of thing.
So it sounds like then this is something that applicants need to be aware of, both in terms of the timing involved, of course, but also they need to be prepared that they are going to go through this very vexing, this very difficult application process, and they have to be prepared for that emotionally as well.
They have to be prepared for it emotionally, and then the seller has to be prepared that it's going to take time, and the seller has to be patient and accept that sometimes the buyer is going to request an extension of the amount of time given under the contract to obtain the loan commitment. The convention used to be 30 days. Now it's 45 days as the amount of time given for the buyer to get a loan commitment. And then but that often gets stretched to 55, 50, 60 days, or as long as the buyer needs. And it's often not the buyer's fault.
Right.
And that stretches out the closing date. So you expect it to close in 75 days? No, you might be closing in 90 or 100 or 110 days. And everybody has to be aware of this.
Right. And so we are speaking with Oded Ben-Ami. Oded is counsel at David Dow, Siegel & Stern, a real estate attorney concentrating in residential purchases and sales. Oded, if listeners have questions for you regarding real estate and the law behind it, they can contact you how?
At our office at David Dow, Siegel & Stern at 631-234. Steve likes to say 3030. I like to say 3030.
And they can also get us on the web at www.daviddowlaw.com. You're listening to Senior Counsel here on LI News Radio. And Oded, you have guided people, clients who are first-time home buyers. You've guided clients who are seniors, who are either approaching retirement or after retirement, who might be looking to sell their homes that they've been in for 40 or 50 years and starting the transition process of perhaps downsizing here in New York or elsewhere. What are some of the issues that you see and what are some of the differences that you see between first-time home buyers and those that are looking to sell their long-time family home and starting the downsizing process? And what's some of the issues that they need to be aware of?
Well, first, the similarity between the first-timer and the old-timer is that they are both unaware. The first-timer's coming in has never gone through a process and just doesn't know what's involved. The old-timer thinks he knows, but the landscape has changed so much in the last, never mind 30 years, never mind 20 years, in the last 2 or 3 years,
sure,
that the old timer doesn't know either. So that's the similarity. The main difference is that the first time home buyer is typically coming in with a low down payment and going for financing. And that's not necessarily a problem, even though the mortgage market has tightened up considerably over the past 4 or 5 years. There's still ample financing for as little as 3.5% down. People are not aware. You can get 96.5% financing. Can't get the 100% financing that you used to get, or even the 105, 110% financing that you used to get. But first-time home buyers can leverage themselves a great deal. And by contrast, the senior or long-time homeowner is typically going to be buying something else for less than the value of what he currently owns or the family currently owns. And so that category of seller buyer will usually buy for cash, having taken in some hundreds of thousands of dollars on a property that had no mortgage in the first place. So the particular counsel that I give to the sellers who have been in their home for 20, 30, 40 years is take the time first to research where you're going to buy next, where you're going to live next. If you value your home quickly and properly, not quickly, you'll be able to sell it quickly. Take the time first to really get clear about where you want to go first.
All right. And Oded Ben-Ami, counsel at David Dow, Siegel and Stern. Oded, questions our listeners can get you how?
631-234-3030, and I welcome your questions.
They can find you on the web where?
At www.daviddowlaw.com.
Very good. And I'm Stephen Stern, partner in the law firm of David Dow, Siegel and Stern. So proud, so excited to bring you senior counsel here on LI News Radio. David Dow, Siegel and Stern, elder law, estate planning, and special needs firm. And we look forward to seeing you here on Senior Counsel next time. Be well.